My state recently proposed a bill to ban people under the ages of 14 from accessing social media and would implement this bill by having people upload their IDs before accessing social media websites, etc. In theory, I support this idea. Right? I was a child with unregulated internet access from the age of 9, and I'll be the first to admit I encountered a bunch of stuff I probably shouldn't have. Most social media websites, though, already have a rule saying you can't be under the age of 13 or 16 and have an account. So the social media websites are already doing their due diligence. This law doesn't make sense to implement because the industry is already self-regulating. So what is this law trying to do? This law is trying to make it to where they can track who accesses what website and when through an ID. So this would not solve the problem of young kids being exposed to stuff they shouldn't be. It would instead implement new forms of censorship and possibly crime and punishment in our already existing police state that is America. So how do we actually protect children from things they shouldn't see online? Like I said, I had unregulated internet access from a young age, and I did encounter stuff I should not have encountered at a young age, but I knew how to handle it responsibly because I had been educated to do so. The only way we can protect our children is not through regulation, but instead education. When I was a child, I was taught that the internet was not a safe place, that you had to curate your own experience, and you had to be smart. I knew what I was allowed to look up and not look up, and even when I got curious to look up the stuff I wasn't allowed to look up, I knew how to protect myself while doing so. I saw porn for the first time at the age of 12, and I knew how to exit out and tell a trusted adult. I knew what was right and wrong for me to be seeing at what age. I knew what websites or apps I was allowed to go on. I knew what was appropriate and what wasn't. I knew not to speak to strangers. I knew not to engage with people online. I knew not to share personal information. I was taught how to use websites. I was taught very minor coding in the 4th grade so that I would be able to self-regulate. I knew what a block button was. I knew how to leave a website. I knew how to use an incognito window to protect my IP address. I knew all these things from a young age because I was literally taught it either in school or from my parents. My parents would regularly check my internet search history on both my iPod Touch and on the family desktop. I was given computer games with approved ratings so I could do stuff on technology that was not just go on apps. I was given limited app time. I was supported when it came to reading. I was encouraged to have hobbies away from a screen and regularly sent to summer camps or overnight camps that didn't allow cell phones in the first place. I was not allowed to bring my iPod Touch to school. I was not given my own cell phone until I was 14. These are things that you can do to help actually protect children at a young age from the internet. You gotta parent, you gotta be present, you gotta be aware. Laws like this just make it easier for parents to throw their kids to the wolves and make it a lot easier for your government then to punish you over nothing. I understand the positive intention behind bills like this, and I will always support the positive intention behind bills like this, but the execution is always going to be lacking. Like I said, social media websites already don't let people younger than the age of 13 or 16 onto their platforms. This law doesn't change any of the initial rules. All this law does is regulate your average citizen, make you show your ID for what you do. If you want to actually protect kids, you got to parent your kids. That's where this falls through. A lot of people don't want to parent their kids. Look up the website for your local library and see if they offer classes on cybersecurity, cyber safety, etc. And if they don't, and you're someone who grew up on the internet who knows how to keep children safe on the internet, see if you can maybe host a class at your local library. If you really want to help kids, get in there and teach them what not to do online. Teach them how to use a website. Teach them not to download things and teach them what the block button is. Teach them internet safety. Teach them not to speak to strangers. But laws like this are only going to hurt in the long run. If you want to protect kids, you got to parent kids. We have to be there for kids. We can't just slap a Band-Aid law on a problem that doesn't really exist and then move on.